In this part, we're going to model the rear fender. The rear door here was an assignment, and hopefully you had the same result as I have here in my scene. Let's begin the rear fender. So just like the others, we're going to bring the guide meshes back. I want to take the guide mesh, duplicate it, and I want to move that into the vehicles collection here, and then disable the guide mesh again. Let's go into the modifiers tab and drop this down to a 2. Now let's go over into edit mode and delete all the unnecessary vertices we don't need. So now let's take this one right here. Let's take the edge right at the end, just like we did with the others. We're going to use that to split it. So I'm going to press Shift and D to duplicate, and then press X and then move it in the X-axis a little bit. I want to press P to separate the selection. Now I want to take that new object and I want to delete the modifiers from it. So all the modifiers. I'm going to go into edit mode and into the side view. Let me take this vertex here and slide it beyond. Take that one and slide it beyond. It's basically the same as the ones we did earlier. So I'm just going to extrude this in the X to about somewhere here. Let's recalculate the normals. Doesn't really matter. And I'm going to take this one and then add in a boolean modifier. And I want to select the target to be this new mesh we created. And I'm going to set it from exact to fast. Let me take this and hide it. Let's set it back to exact and see what that does. Okay, so that basically trims it automatically for us. So we're going to keep it on exact. I want to apply the boolean modifier. Now let's take this and move it to the backup collection here. Let's take this and go into edit mode. And let's see what we have to do to clean things up. Alright, let me press Alt and H to bring this piece back. And let's go into edit mode of both of them so we can see what we're joining. Alright, all of this side looks good. Let me go into full screen so I can see things much better. Alright, so I'm going to take this and merge it to that one by merging at last. Let me hide this real quick. We don't need this extra vertex here. So I'm just going to merge. Okay, there's 3 of them here. So I'm going to take 1, 2, and 3 and merge it at the last. Okay, let's keep going. Let me dissolve this edge here. So dissolve edges. Let me take a look at this. I'm going to take this and merge it to the last one here. And I'm going to take this and merge it to the last one here. And finally, I'm going to take this and merge it to the last one here. Now let's just take the whole thing, press M, and then save by distance to make sure we don't have any double vertices in here. Now what I want to do is I want to have this edge we have over here continue all the way to the top. So I'm going to use the knife tool and then knife it from here to there. And I want to knife it to about here and then all the way to the back here like this. Let me just merge this to the last one here. Oh, we have a double vertex here. So I'm just going to merge them together just so we have that area rounding off. I think there might be the same issue here. Yeah. So we're going to merge it to make sure it's rounded off very nicely. Let me just take that now. I'm going to move it in a y-axis to about somewhere here. And let me get to the side view and make things look much nicer. So I'm just going to press G here and move this up to about here. And let's take a look here. This side seems to be good, but I'm just going to move it down a bit. And then I'm going to knife these ones to the outside, like so. Let me take all of these and press F. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Knife it to there. Take these 4 and press F. And I'm finally going to do it for this one as well. And take these 4 and press F. Let's fix this area a bit more. I'm going to take this and then slide it in. Hold on. Okay, no, this one rather. And let's slide it in. And take this and slide this in as well to about there. Now let's start making the cutout we have over in here. So let me just zoom into this area. Maybe the side view here. Let me disable the mirror modifier for now so I can see things much better. So I'm going to take this and let's slide things onto place on the edge right there. Let's make our way down here and let's take this edge and then slide it up a bit. I'm just going to press S and Z to flatten it. And then let's move it down just a little bit. Let's move here. I'm going to take this, slide it to the left, and then align all 3 onto the edge right there. And let's make our way to the side, do the same thing. Now let's see how we can make this cutout in this area. And I'm going to take these ones and then slide them up to about the middle area right here. And then let's see how we can make this cut. So I'm just going to use the knife tool and then cut it from here. Now let's see what we can do about this area. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the knife tool and then knife it from here to about there. And I'm going to take this and slide it up to about somewhere here, like so. Now let me do the same thing here. Use the knife tool, knife it to about there. Take that and then slide it up to about there. Let's take these edges and then dissolve the edges. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Take these two and dissolve the edges. And I'm going to press Ctrl and R to add an extra loop cut in the middle here. And let's take these two and then press J so we have quads on both sides. I'm just going to do the same thing on this side as well. Take these two, press J so we have quads on both sides. Now we can delete all the vertices in the middle here. Let's define the curves a little bit better now. All right, very nice. That should be good. Let me slide these sides a bit more. Now we're just going to take all of these edges. Now let me zoom into this area, get into full screen. And I'm going to press F in this area, and I'm going to press I, and I'm going to press Ctrl B, and then insert this to about somewhere here like so. Let's delete the face, and then let's see how we can clean things up in this area. There we go. Now that we have everything nicely aligned, we're just going to make sure they are flat on the surface by taking each pair of vertices and then pressing S and then X and typing in 0. And I want to do that all the way to the other side. Now for this area, we're not going to do the same thing because if you go ahead and do that, you can see that gives us a weird result here. So I'm just going to try and then move things out by hand. So I'm just going to move this in a bit. And then let me take this and then let me just move it out a little bit. Now I'm going to take the whole thing. I'm going to press G and then X and move this in about the same as the one we have in the front. So I'm not sure how far inside we're going to go with this, but not too far inside. I think to about somewhere around. Let me go in just a little bit more. Okay, maybe a little bit out, and I think that should be good. Let me see how I can better define this area. So I'm going to spread these ones out all the way down to about here. And let me take this and move this to the left side a bit like so. Take this one and move that in. Let's take a look at this area. I think that is good. And everything else should be looking good. Now let's go ahead and adding supporting edge loops in here. I'm just going to check the amount here. All right. So let's press Ctrl and R and then press E to align with the inner one. And I'm going to move it to about here. And I'm going to add one more in the middle there. I want to do the same thing on the inside. So E and then F. And I'm going to add, hold on, let me try that again. E and then F. I'm going to add one in the middle there as well. I think I want to fix this area a bit more. It looks a bit odd. Let me dissolve these edges first. Okay, let me take this and move it in the x-axis a little bit. I'm going to take this one, move that in the x. Let me take these two, move them in the x-axis. Deselect that one, move it in the x. Take this, move it in the x. Take that one, move it in the x. Then maybe finally we take this one and move it in the x. And I think, yeah, that definitely looks much better. Let me take this, move it out a little bit. Yeah, there we go. I think that should be good. All right, I'm going to take the whole thing. Let me get into camera view. We don't need it to go that far down, so I'm just going to slide it out or up to about somewhere here like so. Now let's go ahead and adding the supporting edge loop on the inside like so, and then like so. And then we should be good. Let me get into camera view and let's make our way up here. I'm going to take this and then slide it down to about here. And I'm going to take this and delete it. Now let's take this one and I'm going to hit Control B to bevel this a little bit like so. I'm going to press X and delete the faces. Now let's go ahead and take this and then let's add in the shrink wrap modifier. So shrink wrap, I'm going to set the target to the body guide mesh. And I'm going to go into the object data properties and I'm going to add in a new vertex group. And let's see what we can do here. So I'm going to take the whole thing and then let's assign it. I want to deselect, I'm going to unassign all the ones we don't want assigned. So I'm just going to click remove to remove them from it. And let's go back to the modifier tab and then adding the vertex group here so we can define that a bit more. Now let's take the one below and let's type in a value of 0.3 and then click on assign. Now let's take this one, click a value of 0.5 and then assign. And then finally, let's take this, click a value of 0.8 and then assign. All right, that should be pretty good. Let's tighten this up a bit more. So I'm just going to slide it up, take this and slide that up as well. Let me get up here and let's adding supporting edge loops here. So down here and then up here, and I'm going to add one up here as well. And that should be good. I'm going to add one in here. That should be good. Now, before we do anything else, if you take a look here, you can see we have the charging area of the vehicle. Now, this area is not on the other side of the vehicle. So basically, it's not a mirror on the other side. So the best way we can do is to finish everything that both fenders have on them. And then once we're done, we come and create this cutout just for this fender. And then we call this piece done. So let me get out of full screen. And the next step after this one is to add in a solidify modifier. I'm going to apply the rotation and scale to make sure everything or the values we're using is accurate. I'm going to type in 0.05 here for the first one. Enable even thickness, and I'm going to enable only rim. And I'm going to duplicate that solidify modifier and then set the value to 0.025. And that will be the second one. Very nice. Now we can go ahead and then apply the first one, get into edit mode, take both of these, and then remove it from the surface vertex group here. And then let's see if it needs any cleaning up. Now we can go ahead and then apply the second solidify. And this one is going to need a lot of cleanup. Now let's go ahead and adding the extra loop cut we did for the previous panels. I'm going to remove that from the suffix vertex group. And then let's get onto the side. So Alt and S, I'm going to shrink this out to about there. And I think that should be good, but I'm going to have to move things around a bit. Let me get to the side here. I'm going to take all of these. I'm going to hide it and take the one above, press Alt and H. And I'm going to move this down just a little bit like so. Moving in the x-axis a bit. And let's take the actual loop cut we added in and deselect all of these. Now I'm just going to press G and then Z and move this down a bit. I'm going to move it in the X a bit. I'm going to do the same thing here. Deselect the ones up here. G and then Z to move it up a bit, like so. And G and then Y, X to move it forward a bit. And there we go. I'm going to take the whole thing here as well, deselect the ones above, move it up in the Z, and then move it in the X-axis, like so. All right, very nice. Now let's take a look at this area. All right, so I'm going to have to move things around here a bit. Move this out a little bit. I'm going to take this and move this up and out just a little bit. Not sure if that is enough gap. I think we might need a little bit more. Let me get to the side here. Maybe let's do it on this door instead. So I'm going to take the entire thing here. I'm going to move it in a Y to about here, just so we have enough gap in there. Do the same thing here a little bit. The same thing here a little bit. Same thing here a little bit. Same thing here a little bit. All the way to the top. Okay, that is looking good. All right, so that's the rear fender done. But remember, we have to duplicate the mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and then apply the mirror modifier. And that should give us two separate pieces. So now whatever we do to this piece here is not going to affect that one. All right. So I'm just going to take this and then that one and then hide it. And then let's see how we can create the panel. I'm going to start things off. Let's get to full screen here. I'm going to start things off by sliding this one back and taking these ones and sliding them onto the edge. And I'm going to use the knife tool and then knife it from here to up here. I'm going to leave about 3 in the corner here, like so. Something like that. I'm just going to merge this to the last here. Let me just move this one up a bit and move this inside a bit. I'm going to just move this one here a bit. And let me continue the knifing. Move it to about here. Move this here. And I'm going to join it to this one right here. I'll have to move this in the y-axis until it sits on the edge like that. I'm going to take this one as well, move it in a bit, add an extra edge in here. So to about somewhere here, and then maybe slide it out until it's sitting directly on the edge. Let me slide it up a bit to about here. Slide it out. Let me merge this to the last one here. And let's see how we can finish off the bottom area here. Let me take all of these and let's slide it down to about here. Slide this to around here. And let me use the knife tool. I'm going to knife this to, I don't know, about somewhere here. Maybe here. Then let's go 1, 2, 3. And then we leave it right around here. And send this through to about here. Let's hit enter. Let me slide this down to around here. And use the knife tool. Cut it from here all the way to there. Let me take this one and then let's slide it down to about here. And I'm going to put one more in the middle here, just so we can define this curve here, like so. All right, let me adding a loop cut in here so that we can merge this to the last one here. I'm going to do the same thing here, maybe around here. I'm going to merge this to the last one here. Let me just take this and then that one maybe, and then hit J. And then let me just dissolve these edges here. 1 and 2, dissolve edges. Let me put 2 more in here. And I can take this, hit J, take that, and then hit J. Let me just take this and then hit J. So we can keep a triangle there. And I think for this side, let me just slide this back. And let's keep a triangle here as well. For now, let's just take these 2 and hit J, so we keep a triangle there just for now. Maybe let's take these 2 and then hit J here as well. Okay, let me take these 4 and hit F. Let me just take this and merge it to this one. And then let's use this to define a curve more. So something like so. I'm going to take this and slide it down and then slide it out. I'm going to do the same thing here. Slide these in. And I think that should be about good. Let me take this one and slide it in a bit. I'm going to slide this one out a bit. Slide this one up a bit. Let me take 1 and then 2 and hit J so that we can fill a quad in here. And I'm going to take this and hit J. You just add in a loop cut in here. Deselect all of these and dissolve the edges. Then we can just take these 2 and hit J. Just going to slide it down a bit. Now let's see what we can do here. Let me take this and let's hit J. Take this and that and let's hit J. And I think for this, we're just going to take this and hit J as well. Let's see how we can clean things up here. So I'm going to take it from here to here and dissolve the edges. And take it from here to here and dissolve the edges. And I think that should be good. Maybe we could just take this and hit J so that we can dissolve these edges here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole thing here. Like so. Now I'm going to hide it and take everything inside. Press Alt and H to bring everything back. And let's try inserting and let's see how that works. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'm just going to insert it a little bit like so. Now let me take this. Now let's delete the vertices. So I'm going to go in here, take the whole thing, and I'm going to add in a supporting edge loop by pressing I to insert, and let's hit Ctrl B to disable boundary and then move it to about somewhere here. Now for this side, I think we're going to have to do it by hand. So I'm going to use the knife tool and then knife it all around that edge. All right, now let's clean it up a bit. Now let me take this one for now. Now I'm going to press P to separate the selection. I'm going to add in a solidify modifier just like we did with the rear fender to this one. I'm going to add in a solidify modifier. Make sure that that object is in focus. Now let's enable even thickness and only rim. I want to type in 0.05 for the first one, and I'm going to duplicate it. And for the second one, we're going to type in 0.025. Now for this side here, we're not going to use a solidify modifier. I'm just going to do it by hand. But before we do that, let's take the shrink wrap modifier, duplicate, and apply it. I'm going to do the same thing here. Take the shrink wrap modifier right here, duplicate, and apply it. And then let's go in here, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to extrude it in the x-axis to about somewhere here, like so. I think that's enough. I'm going to remove that from the surface vertex group. And then let's set the pivoting point to median point, and I'm going to press E and then scale this out just a little bit like so. Just so we have that 0.25 lip in there like so. So let's get in here and let's apply the first solidify modifier. I'm going to have to remove that from the surface vertex group. So remove. Then we can go ahead because I don't think this needs any cleanup. Of course not. Yeah, we can go ahead and then apply the second solidify modifier. And that should also not require any cleanup. Alright, now let's take the two and then join them back together. Let's go back into edit mode. I'm going to press Ctrl and R3 here and then 3 here as well. Let's take both of them and remove them from the surface vertex group. Let's get onto the side. I'm going to hit Alt and S and then shrink this as close as we can get them together to about something like that. And that should be good. And there we go. But I think the gap is a little too much. So what I'm going to do is, let me just get here, take everything, and except that one, and then let's delete it. And I'm going to take this, get onto the side, press G twice and then C, and let's slide this out to about there. I think that's good. I'm going to add in an extra loop cut in the middle of this one. And I think we should do the same thing here. So let me take the whole thing. Let's try this and see if it works. So I'm going to take the whole thing and I'm going to press G twice and then slide it in. I want to press C and then slide it out beyond that. So we have a bit more gap like so. Now we can press Ctrl and R through here to add in that extra loop cut. Alright, now let's take this again. Press P, say selection, and let's add in that solidify modifier again. So solidify 0.005, enable even thickness and only rim. We're going to duplicate that, set it to 0.025 this time, and then we can go ahead and then apply both modifiers. Let me take this, remove from the surface vertex group before we apply the second one. All right, So I'm just going to press Ctrl and R through here. Let me take this one. Let's dissolve the edge here for now. And let's re-add it in. And I want to take both of them and join it together. Let's take both edges, remove it from the surface vertex group. So remove. Let's get in here and let's hit Alt and S and then shrink things as close as we can, like that. Let's see if we can fix things a bit, because the gap is big in some areas and it's small in other areas. So let me just undo this. Now let me try that again. But this time I'm going to pay attention to the side. So Alt and S. So we have a slight gap in there, like that. Okay. Alright, now let's take the whole thing here. Let's deselect all of these. Now let me just move it in the Y and then move it in the X a bit, just so we can close that gap a bit more. Okay, now let's see how we can do the top and bottom as well. So I'm going to take the whole thing, deselect all of these. Let's move it up in the Z, like so. Okay, that's pretty good. Now let's take a look at down here as well. Take all of this, deselect everything here. Now let's move it down in the Z, like so. Okay. Let me move this in the Y a little bit. And then there we go. Alright, now let's take both and let's duplicate and apply the shrink wrap modifier. They're already one object, so let's just duplicate and apply the shrink wrap modifier. Now let's get in here. Somehow I want us to remove these ones from the surface vertex group so we have a nice rounded edge around that area. And it does give us a nice rounded area, but this area here we have to try and then fix. So I'm going to press Ctrl and R through here and then add in extra loop cuts. Let me add one more in here as well. Let me take this one, and maybe that one, and let's just hit J. And I'm going to take the whole thing here. Let's hit G and then X and move it out. Let me do the same thing with this as well. Take all of that, hit G and then X, and then move it out. And that should be looking good. You just take 1 and 2, hit J to join them. Looking good. And I think that should be it for that area. Let's go ahead and rename it and call it the rear fender, or rear fenders, plural.